que estoy haciendo música desde los 13 años. Antes de hacer música estaba jugando con muñequitos de lucha libre. Crecí escuchando muchos artistas y que aportaron a lo que soy hoy.
Me la voy a llevar a toa pa' un VIP, un VIP.
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. Ey, que sonrían las que ya les metían. Un VIP, un VIP. Ey, saluden a Titi, vamos a tirar un selfie. Say cheese, que sonrían las que ya se olvidaron de mí.
Yo siempre, lo único que quiero es que todo el mundo se sienta bien y que todo el mundo se sienta aceptado y que todo el mundo se sienta feliz, libre. Así es como me siento yo en la tarima y así me siento yo cuando estoy haciendo música. Entonces, así yo también quiero que se sientan mis fanáticos, la gente que me escucha, la gente que disfruta de mi música. No es como que yo me levanto todas las mañanas y digo, hoy voy a hablar por esto y voy a luchar por esto y voy a... No, es una acción que nace de mí, de querer ser empático con la gente, de querer ayudar a alguien, de querer darle la mano a alguien, de querer simplemente aportar a que todo el mundo se sienta mejor, en un mundo mejor. Si yo no fuera artista, si no fuera famoso y estuviera todavía trabajando en el supermercado que te dije, sería igual. Siempre que yo pueda ver a alguien que yo puedo defender o que puedo ayudar o que puedo aportar o que puedo mejorar su día, lo voy a hacer. No lo tengo como... Eso está tan natural en mí que no es como que lo tengo como una meta ahí puesta en la nevera, que la miro todos los días. Es como que algo que me nace porque soy de ahí y mano, así somos también. En Puerto Rico tuve que por lo menos donde yo me crié, pues o por lo menos ese es el ejemplo que vi también de mi familia, de mi papá. Siempre trataba de ayudar a alguien, siempre estaba ayudando a alguien de la comunidad. Entonces yo creo que crecí bajo ese ambiente y con esa actitud de siempre darle algo a la gente. Tengo todavía muchas metas, muchas cosas. Cuando tú logras algo ya tú buscas lo próximo que quieres hacer. Entonces ojalá tenga el tiempo aquí en la tierra para hacer todas esas cosas que quiero.
Oftentimes, as an actor, you're asked to or expected to make sense of something for the audience. For me, cinema is more a place where your unformed thoughts and feelings collect into a collective space, and through the narrative, you're offered a pathway into insights, but it's not to ask you to think or feel something. And that's what I loved about Tar, is that there's no right or wrong way to view the film.
You want to dance the mask, you must service the composer. You got to sublimate yourself, your ego, and yes, your identity. You must, in fact, stand in front of the public and God and obliterate yourself.
In order to truly create an ambiguous character, you have to hold two opposing ideas in your mind at the same time. Because we often look at characters, and I think women in film have suffered from this, where we have to understand them, we have to relate to them, we have to like them, that they can't do unexpected, unpalatable, or complicated things, that they can't hold that ambiguity within them. I think the idea that one female character represents all of female experience is a very, I was going to say old-fashioned one. Women are not a monolith. I thought my use-by date when I stepped in front of the screen as a 25-year-old was 5 years. And of course, there's been trailblazing women behind and in front of the camera who have kept pushing that use-by date beyond that. They've pushed the possibilities of what women can play. What attracts me to a role is the strangeness of the ask and the potential quality of the conversation of the people that you're going to be spending time with, because film, it's a temporal medium, And so it takes a lot of time to prepare, to shoot, to talk about. And so you have to be pretty in love with the ideas of the film, with the people that you're making it with, and the range of the character. And sometimes, you know, you can die on page 9, and sometimes you are the one who is most propulsive character in the narrative. Those things are immaterial to me. But in the case of Lydia Tarr, it was being in dialogue with Todd Field. And I think that the vastness and dangerous quality of the questions that the script held. That's the exciting thing, when you can connect into, and you never know whether this is going to happen or not, but you connect into the zeitgeist, but then you're also making something that's going to stand the test of time.
Hello, I'm Florence Pugh, and these are my ultimate faves on my camera roll that bring me complete joy. Let's start with this one. This is my baby Billy. And that's her yawning. My dog is like half human, half dog. If I'm sat at a dinner table, she wants to sit on the chair next to me, or she wants to sit on my lap. She thinks she's a lot smaller than she actually is. Do you want it back? And she's really heavy. She's a Staffy mix, and she's like pure muscle. And when she jumps up or sits on any lap, it's like, oh my God, takes the breath out of you. And so this was a dinner, we were having a dinner party at my friend's house, my friend's Hebe's house, and she was whining because I was sat at the table, and I told her no, and then when I was finished my meal, she definitely jumped on top of my lap. She is fully my baby. And then this one is my granny Pat and me on the Wonder red carpet. My Granzilla started going to red carpet premieres on the red carpet and posing ever since Venice. It makes her so happy and so excited. And it's so strange because when you step out into those moments, everybody is so shouty. And every time she's gone out, I've been so scared that someone's gonna be rude or bark at her or shout in the wrong way. And actually every time she goes out, everybody has the utmost respect for her. And they're like, Granny Pat over here. And she just twirls and dances and curtsies. And I mean, look how happy she is. She's like beaming. And then my next one is this one. Pier Paolo received the Fashion Designer of the Year award at the British Fashion Awards. He, for some strange, amazing reason, asked me if I would present the award to him. And I'd never been invited to the Fashion Awards before. And so we found it quite hilarious that the first time I went, I was giving like the award of the night to, the award of the night to him. So this is us laughing and kind of couldn't quite believe what was going on in the back room when he had won his award. So that's the award there. And he designed that dress for me. It was an amazing night with a new friend. Oh, this one's quite funny. Okay, so this is my best friend, Livy. And we were skiing and I got her a mouse helmet cover. And we came down the mountain after a few like apres. We'd had a few Aperols. And she found this cheese shop and opened it and had no idea why we were laughing so hard because she was dressed as a mouse eating cheese. And it shouldn't be that satisfying, but it really is. She's just eating a chunk of cheese, wearing a mouse hat, and it's ridiculous. I've always been waiting for my older sister to have babies ever since I was tiny. Like I've been waiting for the day that she was have babies. And last year she had a baby. And every now and then when I was working away, she'd just send me quick snapshots of what was going on in her life. And this one was really beautiful. She sat with little baby feet inside her feet. And it makes me really happy. And she's so itty and chunky. And those are my picks.
You know, as an actor, you know, you try to find characters that you can pull yourself into and you can relate to, and you can almost kind of use that as like a therapeutic opportunity to work through your own personal shit through a character. Like you look for those things. And Adonis Creed was that for me. I felt like that was like a unique position that I was in. You know, for me, you know, my expression is through acting, through, you know, motion.
So your name was?
Don.
Okay. Well, the girl said you wanted to talk about something?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about training me. And I try to live present in that moment. And that's when it's for me, is like making the thing. Then you got to kind of divorce yourself, and you got to, you know, you got to let go of it because it's out of your control anymore. And you have to give it to the world. And then people are going to have their, you know, their opinions and this and that and pick it apart for whatever reason. And you got to kind of shut that part of it out. I wanted to talk to a lot of actor directors, from Denzel Washington to Bradley Cooper, Jon Favreau, people that knew what it was like to, you know, multitask in that type of way, you know, really splitting their time from in front of the camera and behind the camera, and just, you know, the pace and the workload, you know, just getting real wisdom and insight. I think all the, you know, how do I yell cut, and how do I, you know, say action, and, you know, what's it gonna be like in the middle of a scene, all that kind of just found its place. And then it was a runaway train at that point. You just had to keep up with the machine. So I'm looking forward to the next time step behind the camera. I think for me on this one, knowing that I was gonna do it years in advance really helped out. So I was able to really like plan for it. And then obviously the unknown of the pandemic and quarantine really gave me time to think about what I was gonna do, to really work out, to put the time in pre-production, to get into shape, you know, so I could really worry about most of the things that a director had to worry about besides being in top tier shape. I'm big on next generation, you know, people coming behind me and trying to hopefully shape people's mentality, you know, and thought process for the better. But it's not something that I seek to be influential, but I think I've accepted my role as a leader and all the weight that comes with that. And that's something that you have to had to learn how to accept, and everything that comes with that. Trying to bring people together, you know, as difficult as that is, I welcome that.
Growing up, my mother says that you never found me at ground level. I was always, you know, climbing on sofas and jumping off tables. And as a teenager, I think I was naughty. When I think back, I was like, okay, at least I had a personality, you know? So yeah, I think I was naughty, but in an endearing way. But I think the one constant was that I was always very sure of what I wanted for myself.
In March 2023, Deepika Padukone took to the biggest stage in the film industry as she introduced a live performance of Naatu Naatu, that year's Academy Award winner for Best Original Song.
Thank you so much.
Her debut at the awards solidified her status as a Bollywood icon and introduced the American audience to her work as one of the highest paid actresses in Indian cinema today.
The world is waking up to India beyond just the movies. But if I were to zoom out a bit, whether it's medicine, whether it's technology, whether it's innovation, the arts, music, it's India's moment.
I asked Deepika to tell us which of her films she recommended to someone who's never watched a traditional Bollywood film before.
One movie that I'm in, oh my God. I'd recommend a movie called Piku.
Hey, Piku!
I know it's different from the perception that people have of Indian movies. And yes, it's very, very different from, you know, the perception that we have of song and dance and music and color. But it's truly a special, special movie. So I would recommend watching Piku. Yeah.
Deepika started her career as a pro badminton player, following in the footsteps of her father and former badminton world champion, Prakash Padukone.
I played professional sport, but even my time on the badminton court, I always knew that eventually I'd want to be a model, eventually I want to be an actor. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I had not been a professional athlete. And you don't realize these values, you don't realize these things that you're learning silently. You don't realize it while you're at it. It's something I've realized much later on in life, whether it's how to handle fame, how to handle success, how to handle failure, how to be competitive but in the right spirit. I mean, there's so many things that I don't think I'd learn if I hadn't been an athlete. Self-care is also one of the things I really enjoy doing, and exercise is very much a part of that routine. And maybe it's to do with the fact that I was an athlete and I've always been sort of into physical fitness, so whether I need it for a movie or whether I need it for a brand shoot, all of that is secondary. For me, it's always about how I feel. Yo, I'm in the middle of my interview.
Halfway through our interview in Mumbai, we got a surprise visitor. From Padukone's other movie star half, her husband Ranveer Singh.
The question's about you. She was segueing into married life.
Oh, wow. What a cosmic thing to have happened.
Ask me.
I'm shooting next door.
Ask me now.
Okay, so you've been married now for a few years.
No, yeah.
4 years? 4.5 years?
It'll be 5 this year.
5 years.
Yeah. Been together, what, 10 years, 11 years?
Yeah.
11 years.
What are we doing? What is this?
I'm not ready for this, yeah. I just came to say hi.
You look great.
I was in the middle of
I just want to
something
say
else.
to everyone that this
take
is
this.
truly cosmic. He wasn't like, we didn't plan for him to be here, but he is. I'll answer the question, don't worry. Bye.
अच्छे से करना. Bye.
So, what do you like to do for fun?
I mean, there's a lot of things. I love eating. I'm a huge foodie. I love eating. I just love my South Indian food, the part of the world that I come from. So whether it's idlis and dosas and rasam and rice and even the typical Mangalorean food, if I really had to choose, I'm the kind of person, and my mother always says this, she's like, you've not even finished breakfast. And apparently I was like this even when I was in school. Like, we've had dinner and I'm already like, Ma, what are we having for breakfast tomorrow? I've finished breakfast and Ma, what are we having for lunch? So I'm always thinking about food. What else? I mean, I love spending time, my husband and I've married my best friend, and I think the fact that we're just so goofy with each other, where, I can feel like absolutely myself, my most vulnerable, my most clumsy, my most expressive. Yeah, we've known each other now 10 years almost, so it's my happy place. Yeah.
Sometimes I want something, I'll just go. And if anyone will go for it and reach that thing, then I don't have to get up. Is that bad? I'm joking. Whenever I stay at a White Lotus, I always have a memorable time, always. Somehow White Lotus started this thing, and I'm just really surprised that so many people watched the show, and surprises are so much better than unmet expectations. I can have sunglasses, a hat, a scarf, and a mask on, and people are like, "Hi, Jennifer." You're like, how is that possible? Like, I must have like a awkward walk or something that people just pick up on or something. I don't know.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Are you Ms. McQuoid?
Quad, one syllable.
McQuad.
That never occurred to me that you could be a late bloomer as an actor. I mean, I really wasn't that bad in my 30s. I really felt like I had a lot to offer the world, but I got a couple shows and things like that, but nothing, you know, that where people were like, yeah, wow, you gotta have her.
So hard on me.
You know, I guess I have to really credit, you know, this generation, this sort of young generation sort of remembers me from American Pie and Legally Blonde and Cinderella Story and stuff. And so I guess those true fans of those movies are fans of mine now. I was so interested in other people. I was always trying to win over other people instead of just taking care of business. But I think the young generation now is far more clever than me, and I think they're very onto that. And I think a lot of girls are like really taking care of themselves and making things happen for themselves. I think one things I have going for me is that, you know, I'm not a phony. All that kind of like Hollywood actors and things like that, we're going through a phase where it was all about glamour and sort of saying the right thing, but it was always kind of put on and a little bit removed. I think sometimes people really just like the honest answer sometimes, even if it's, you know, not what you're supposed to say. My father used to, he was this really incredibly bright man, and he used to say this quote to me all the time, and it's, character is fate. And I think in this lifetime, who you are decides your ending and how your life will go. And now, as an older person, I realize that's one of the most accurate things I've ever heard.
In a deep sense, AI is the technology that the world, that society, people have always wanted. Sci-fi's been talking about this for a very long time. I think we can do a lot to really maximize the good and manage and mitigate the bad. But the scary part is just sort of putting this lever into the world will for sure have unpredictable consequences. You know, we think it's very important to our mission to deploy things like ChatGPT so that people gain some experience and feeling of the capabilities and limitations of these systems. But as these models get to know you better and are capable of more, you can really imagine a world where you have a fairly simple and short conversation with the model and a huge amount of things get done on your behalf. Pretty soon, I think we'll just expect all the products and services we use to have some intelligence baked in, and it'll just kind of be expected like a mobile app is today. I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong, and we want to be vocal about that. We want to work with the government. It is our responsibility to educate policymakers and the public at large about what we think is happening, what we think may happen, likely to happen in the future, and to put technology out into the world so people can see it.
Exploitation of personal data, the proliferation of disinformation, and the deepening of societal inequalities. We have seen how algorithmic biases can perpetuate discrimination and prejudice, and how the lack of transparency can undermine public trust.
That voice was not mine. The words were not mine. And the audio was an AI voice cloning software trained on my floor speeches. The remarks were written by ChatGPT. When it was asked how I would open this hearing.
We've so grown up in a world where we sort of trust someone's voice we hear over the phone. This particular example, I think, is going to be a problem, and we need society to adjust to it fast. So I think we just all need to start telling people, this is coming. You can't trust a voice you hear over the phone anymore. And society is capable of adapting to this. People are much smarter and savvier than I think a lot of the so-called experts think. these systems are already quite powerful and will get tremendously powerful. And we have come together as a global community before for very powerful technologies that pose substantial risk that one has to overcome to get to the tremendous upside. I think AI will contribute a lot to increasing the total amount of wealth in the world. However, it won't be sufficient on its own, and I still think we need much more public policy around how we're going to divvy up access to these systems, how we're going to divvy up governance of these systems. That will be a matter for policy, not the technology alone. The effects that AI have are going to be very different in the world than the effects that social media had. And so I think it is difficult and dangerous to say, oh, it's going to play out like this, and we're going to think of this like social media, or we're going to think of this like nuclear weapons, or we're going to think of this like synthetic biology, or we're going to think of this like the iPhone. This is just a new thing, and I think analogies from the past are going to particularly badly fail us this time around.
It started off with simply finding shapewear that was a skin tone that would match my color. And a lot of my friends' skin tone, you'd either get like a super light nude or just black. There was nothing in between. And so I used to take all my shapewear and dye it with tea bags and coffee and in the bathtub or in the sinks. I really was just looking for a solution to what I hadn't found out there.
Let's talk about Skims.
I do go to every board meeting and I am in every strategy meeting. I would say my strong point in the business is marketing, all the campaigns, all of the models, every fabric, every fit, every cut, every drop. So I'm more on the creative side.
This is a game changer.
We have been working on launching our men's collection for Skims for a really long time. We really wanted to make it perfect, and it's gonna be coming finally this year, at the end of the year. I have invested money in Skims. I've always believed in it. I would invest 10 times over. I wish I did more.
Oh. We have Chanel, gorgeous, everyday smoothing and sculpting bra that holds you in.
I think we're really unique in the sense that we do blend family and business probably more than the average person. And I know that they always say that's when it gets really messy and tricky. And I think you will see in our new season of our show, this is the first time where it probably does get a little too tricky. I feel like I've evolved in the sense of not being so judgmental in a family member, not wanting to do a project to be a part of the family business. And at the end of the day, we've always had in our hearts that family over everything, but sometimes you do need to be reminded of that.
Everybody's wearing Skims.
Every day the kid gets to switch of whose music they want to plug in and listen to on the way to school, and North was listening to Ice Spice. And I didn't know who that was at the time. And I was like, this is the moment where I feel really old, where my daughter is now teaching me what's cool. I then had the idea to put her in a Skims campaign. So that all came through North and what she liked. I think it's always tough when you're co-parenting and someone wants something and someone doesn't. I would say the Ice Spice videos, she said, Mommy, can I post this? I was out of town, so I had my nanny was there and allowed it. And then as soon as I saw the words and everything, I was like, oh no, we're taking this down. She was totally understood. So I think that's the trial and error sometimes. And and then I saw on the internet, it's like, Kanye was right, and maybe he was, in that instance. But in the creative side, where she loves making slime videos and doing her little hair tutorials, I will fight for her to be creative in those ways. So it's always a compromise. No one's always going to agree. And you just have to do the best that you can as a parent to try to protect your kids, but also let them be creative. Seeing the success of Skims has definitely been probably one of my proudest moments.
A lot of people say that you have changed the culture. Do you think you have?
I'm never one to ever boast or that always makes me feel uncomfortable. But I would say maybe Keeping Up with the Kardashians helped shape the culture, and I think it's such a big part of pop culture and everyone. I think everyone together, and I think, you know, Skims helped shape shapewear culture, and I would like to think like my sisters have been really influential, and yeah.
I happen to believe in studying and being involved in creativity for 50 years now, that great creativity is almost a miracle, you know, born out of the passion of a great creator, fueled by resources and sometimes teamwork and sometimes serendipity. It's interesting, you know, after all these years being involved and even coming back to Disney, I still kind of marvel at creativity in its highest form. How did that happen? And it goes back to artistry and artists and passion and vision, and it's actually what makes this company and what makes this business so much fun.
Breaking overnight, a change in leadership at Disney. Bob Iger is returning as CEO.
I was brought back for a reason. The company had gone through a very difficult period, exacerbated by global pandemic, and more than anything, the company needed stability. I was the CEO of the company for 15 years and the executive chairman for 2. I was also COO for 5 years, so I had a lot of experience at or near the top of this company and learned a tremendous amount over that period of time. And so coming back, clearly I am turning to my own experiences and my own learning, but I'm also well aware that today's environment is different. You have to be, I think, you know, completely capable of adapting quickly. Reducing costs is not necessarily one's favorite thing to do in running a company. It is a necessary thing to do often, particularly as conditions change. It's not the easiest thing in the world to accomplish. It does force a discipline and a focus. You take a creatively driven company and you apply technology the way Pixar did, and you suddenly end up with this combination that Steve Jobs talked about. What really made Steve's heart sing, as he said it, was the combination of great creativity with great technology. And you look at Pixar and what they did, and that combination enabled them to remain relevant without changing any storytelling values. Cheering on the hero's journey, ultimately good conquers evil, all of those things in all of those stories, but told or presented in very relevant ways. You can take a movie that was made in 1937 by Walt Disney, Snow White, and put it on Disney Plus to be consumed on a mobile device, and that film, the same film that he created in 1937, will feel a lot more relevant today to an audience. Young people today starting out at companies, as I did back in 1974, I don't think expect to stay at the same company for their entire lives or their entire career. I'm not sure that I knew what to expect when I started out either, though. I was extremely fortunate in that I started working at a company and in a business that experienced phenomenal growth and expansion over the course of really the 5 decades that I worked in it. If you study great brands over time and you try to figure out why do some companies stand the test of time and remain relevant, you would quickly conclude that most companies that go away, that fade away because they've abandoned the core values that created the company and the values in the first place. In the interest of staying relevant, they distance themselves from the very essence of what they were when they began. There is a way to completely adhere to those same values, provided they're the right values, but to present them to the world, to your customers, even to your employees, in much more relevant ways.
Moi, la créativité dans les plats, c'est vrai qu'elle vient de diverses manières. Des fois, ça va être juste l'envie, un souvenir. par exemple un plat que ma mère me faisait et puis j'ai envie de le proposer mais avec une manière plus moderne et aussi avec le ramener un peu dans mon univers. Et d'autres fois, ça va être un goût ou quelque chose qui va tourner dans ma tête pendant 1 semaine, 2 semaines et à un moment, je vais prendre le produit et je vais travailler le plat. Donc ça fait venir un peu comme ça, un peu instinctivement. Moi, ce qui me passionne dans le monde culinaire en ce moment, c'est qu'il y a une nouvelle génération de chefs dont je fais partie, je prêche un peu pour ma paroisse, mais qui est vachement plus ouverte. On a plus cet esprit de caste entre les chefs où on va pas échanger, on a vachement de chefs qui traversent le monde, qui échangent, et c'est vrai qu'on sent qu'il y a un brassage culturel qui se fait, mais d'une manière qui est totalement naturelle. On est mutuellement curieux du travail de l'autre, on n'a pas envie de le copier, on a juste envie d'aller voir ce qu'il fait, de partager. T'es prêt à cuisiner ? C'est génial parce que de plus en plus, cette jeune génération finalement influence aussi les générations d'avant et tout le monde se met à coopérer et il n'y a plus cette notion de chef français et de chaque pays qui va défendre sa cuisine. On défend tous une cuisine qui est la bonne et ensuite on échange selon les particularités culturelles. Bonne question. Je commencerai par Kylian Mbappé. Faut faire une table cool et sympa. Alors, Timothée Chalamet aussi. Michelle Obama. Ça peut être assez marrant. Ils peuvent être morts aussi. Aretha Franklin. Et un dernier. Il faut quand même quelqu'un qui puisse amuser tout le monde. Jamel Debbouze. Et qu'est-ce que je cuisinerais ? Vraiment, quand je cuisine et que je reçois à la maison, j'aime des choses simples. Alors on va se faire un beau poulet rôti, des frites et une belle mayonnaise avec un petit peu d'ail dedans, avec un jus de poulet rôti et franchement, on n'a pas besoin de plus.
The Iranian regime kicked me out from Iran, but they couldn't take Iran out of me. Through my social media, I am there every day. We are invisible in Iran. If we don't cover ourselves, we don't exist. But through my social media, people take their visibility back. I'm a journalist, activist, and an author. Social media is like my weapon, because we don't have freedom of expression in Iran. When you turn on the TV, all you see is just women in hijab. So you see the Iran that the Iranian regime wants you to see. But this is not the true face of my beloved country. Go on social media. That's the true image of Iran. You see women unveiled. You see women dancing, singing. You see men and women shoulder to shoulder without any censorship. I made mini documentaries about ordinary women through my social media. When the Iranian regime killed innocent protesters, the mothers didn't know what to do. I didn't do anything wrong. I just told them, you can keep your camera like this. I talked to them and I told them, this is how you can be your own media. Then all the mainstream media are gonna follow your page, your Instagram, your social media. Just go and check the hashtag, my camera is my weapon. You will see that how women were challenging morality police, how women were beaten up in the hand of morality police in the streets, but shouting loudly that I'm not gonna cover myself. Women of White Wednesdays, 15-year-old girls, 16-year-old girls, they were shouting that we don't want compulsory hijab. We deserve to have platform, freedom, to be heard. That's why I created another hashtag for the women of the Middle East, which is called Let Us Talk. We, the women of Iran and Afghanistan, we deserve to be heard. Now, sitting here, I'm a master criminal in the eyes of Iranian regime because I show my hair, I have too much voice, I'm loud, I sing, I dance, I ride a bicycle, I shake hand with men, I go to stadium. So I'm a master criminal in the eyes of the mullahs in Iran. Four women of White Wednesdays are in prison right now. And I felt guilty, because all the people around me, media around me, politicians, everyone saying that, don't you feel guilty that these young women are going to prison just because you called on women to remove their hijab? I did. I was going to shut down the campaign. What happened? Immediately, Sabah's mother, Yasaman's mother, took videos of themselves waving white headscarves and saying that now we are the voice of our daughters. And I was like, whew. When these mothers now joining the young generation, then why should I stop the campaign? These are like Rosa Parks of Iran, These are like women of suffrages, and that's why, I'm not gonna feel guilty. Those who lashes women should feel guilty. Those who put women in prison should feel guilty. When women of Iran know that freedom is not free, then I'm with them.
I was raised with the idea that Earth is a living being. She gives life to you, and in return, you have a responsibility. We collectively are come to a point where we are ignoring the cries of Earth Mother. That is how the climate crisis is linked to women and girls, because the same structures that are uprooting, abusing, hurting, taking without consent is how we treat planet Earth. It's how we treat the very thing that gives us life. I'm called Aisha Siddiqa. I come from a tribal community in northern Pakistan. I am a human rights and climate defender. Over a course of 10 years, I lost one family member after another due to polluted water. By the age of 14, I had an understanding that the environment around me was not necessarily safe. Add in a little bit of the war on terror, and then one starts analyzing why resources were so important that people had to be killed over them. I was absolutely shocked at how human rights violations, violence, is linked to climate defenders and just people trying to ask for clean air and water. In South Asia, climate change disproportionately affects women. How? When they are displaced, women have to go get the water. Women have to raise the kids. Women have to find work. There were around 60,000 women that were pregnant during August, and they had to give birth in flood zones. And we didn't have enough hemoglobin collectively to save them when they were giving birth. So we lost a lot of mothers.
And you tell me about a new UN proposition. Some politicians lie that you keep cradling between your mouth and your ear.
We are approaching the climate crisis in a very global north lens. This law is going to make less pollution. This structure is going to create more sustainability. What happens when you live in an unstable government? When the courts don't work, when laws are not applied, when you cannot limit pollution, we need to think more dynamically. And a majority of the world that is facing the effects of climate change actually are citizens of unstable governments. So we cannot go to our governments and say, do better. That is something that we have to critically apply as part of the equation when we think of climate solutions, when we think of legal solutions, economic solutions, entrepreneurial, technical solutions, all of that. We need to do it fast. When the global south suffers, when Africa can no longer provide us with our minerals and textile, when Pakistan and South Asia can no longer provide us with our grain, when Latin America can no longer provide us with fruit and other parts of Asia can no longer provide us with clothes, the global north will collapse. If there's one thing the climate crisis teaches us, is we're all in it together. So if the hole in the boat is far, far south, eventually the boat will sink. We need to think about this crisis as a collective global crisis. We cannot be individualistic anymore. It will not work.
As an activist, I would carry on my work and resist as far as I can to do as much as I can to achieve trans equality on the land of Hong Kong.
我叫 Henry， 我諗冇人覺得我唔係一個男人，但喺法律上我係一個女人。
I started to get into all these sort of problems because in Hong Kong, the role of the ID card is very central. The police have the power to ask you to present your ID. You need it basically everywhere. I'm not recognized as a man, but also I'm not female, so it's literally impossible for me to use bathroom in the public place because it would be illegal for me to use either of them. It could be the crime of loitering, so essentially I'm excluded from all the gender segregated spaces. The government has a long track record of implementing transphobic policies. You have to have multiple surgeries, and it's very likely that you would develop complications, and I didn't feel the need to have that, and it's medically unnecessary for me.
同言論自由一樣，係與生俱來嘅。
Especially in the political landscape of Hong Kong, change comes so slowly. You win the case and things still don't get implemented. I still haven't been able to change my ID card. You really have to find a way in order to sustain yourself, to keep pushing and not giving up.
Crosses it to Rapinoe. Here comes the shot. It's in! Megan Rapinoe with the strike.
Being a part of this journey and getting to do this, you know, with this team and like in the landscape that we're in right now with women's sports and particularly women's soccer, it's just like, you're just a part of living history. Now that we're ultimately going into the World Cup, it's about winning. And winning brings you the other things that you want. It's not the other way around.
What a goal from Megan Rapinoe, and what a celebration to go with it.
I think my contributions in this World Cup will look very different than past World Cups. I think I'll be much more of a player off the bench, on the field, and probably used more situationally. I see my role honestly as doing whatever we need to do to win.
Let me hear you say it. USA, equal pay. USA, equal pay.
Well, men's sports literally get billions of dollars of public funding, whether it's stadiums or practice facilities or whatever that may be. So we're not doing like rocket science here. Like we're playing a sport and we're able to affect positive change on the world in so many different ways and use the team and the diversity of the team, whether that's our racial diversity, our sexuality diversity, where we come from, like use that as a vehicle to affect positive change on the world. We could have been doing that to achieve this and to be able to go into a World Cup and know that not only, of course, you're fighting to win, and that's the whole point, but you know, that's going to be, I guess, appropriately compensated off the field is nice. It's very nice. I hope it feels normal for the younger ones, and they should be, you know, hopefully looking at those bonuses like, yeah, I deserve this because I earned it. I feel like I have like a deep responsibility to do that. I think everybody has a responsibility to do whatever they can in the most impactful way that they can to make the world a better place. I say that all the time, like it makes me nauseous sometimes how much I say it, but I really do believe that. I have a microphone for so many other things, to not use it for the things that, you know, I care about or other people care about. We're sort of all in this together, and as much as we can leverage every single thing that we can to make the world a better place, a more equitable place for everyone, then I'm willing to do that. I think in general, the trans issue for me is just very much like a human rights issue, because we're not going to be able to stop trans people from being trans. It's like you can't stop anybody from being who they are. Ultimately, it's just pulling back the right for someone to make their own decision about their own body in their own life. Like, nobody owns anybody else's life, so that's abortion rights, that's trans rights, that's racial justice, that's all of that is tied into that. And I think, you know, the progress that we have made is great, but obviously we've seen that can be rolled back, so we have to stay vigilant to that.
Pass Heidema into the path of Rapinoe!
Where do I see myself in 5 years? Obviously the soccer part, you know, is coming to an end, so I'll have a lot more space and time and freedom to do stuff, but my post-soccer career will certainly have more vacations. I plan on saying yes to almost every vacation that everybody asks me to go on. Gosh, in terms of just a career, I mean, I always say I want to be a mogul, but like a mogul for women's sports and for good. There's so many people and things and reasons why this version of me is here, and I have this incredible privilege and platform, and I hope that I can like turn that into rocket fuel for the next phase of everything.
Instead, Hurts takes off and gashes on. Touchdown, Philly.
I'm proud to be a Philadelphia Eagle and play in front of the best fans in the world, and I'm damn sure proud to play with the teammates that I have, so we're just excited for another opportunity ahead of us.
You have a dream dinner party. You can gather 6 people. Who would those people be?
I'd invite Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Muhammad Ali, Denzel Washington, Frankie Beverly, Barack Obama.
They're all coming at your place. What are you serving them?
A little bit of everything. We got different people from different parts of the country, so we'll have a mixed dinner. Mixed dinner. Got some soul food, some Italian cuisine, Cajun. I like boiled crawfish. It's my go-to. I've been able to watch my dad do it, my grandfather do it, and with helping my father doing it as a kid, I've kind of learned to make it my own type of way, and my mom likes it. My grandmother loves it, so that's good enough for me. My girlfriend loves it even more.
And if you're going to set the scene with music, what would you play?
Probably some 80s, 90s, R&B, 80s. Anita Baker, Al Green, Whitney Houston, Houdini, Frankie Beverly. I'll give him some love as he's there. And I've met him a number of times, and he's just a great person.
With this group, what is the conversation you most want to have?
I think just just what their journey looked like and telling it from their eyes, right? You think about the names that I listed or named, and everybody talks about them from their perspective, but what do they think? I think it's cool to be curious, seeing how their process works for them. Well, everybody has a unique way in preparation. I mean, I respect that with different people in the crafts that they love. It's not gonna be no structured thing, anything like that. We're just gonna come in and vibe and enjoy ourselves.
Being the first ever Muslim head of a government in a Western nation means a lot to me and my family. It's something I am proud of. It's not something I dwell on too often because it's an important job to just get on with. But if I can just inspire one person who never thought politics was for them to go, you know what, yeah, it is for me, then that's a pretty good feeling. Growing up in Glasgow, growing up in Scotland, my experiences were quite similar to everybody else. I was, a boy who loved his football, followed his football team, and for a lot of my life, I wasn't overtly conscious of being different despite my race and despite my religion.
I, Hamza Haroon Yousaf.
People ask me often, did you want to become a politician? Did you know that when you were younger? And absolutely not. But to me, there was probably a couple of seminal moments that shaped the future direction of my life. And there's no doubt that 9/11 was one of those moments.
New York City is in shock. One of its most famous landmarks destroyed, thousands dead, and America is under siege.
My Muslim identity came to the fore, partly because people were questioning it, were asking about what it meant in terms of my loyalty to this country. And you had two choices. You either just try to put your head in a bunker and hope that it all passed by, or actually you stood up and you said, you know what, these people don't act in our name. And you know what, I don't have to feel guilty for the actions of an extreme fringe. And I stand in absolute solidarity with those who value and treasure freedom and democracy and the rule of law. I remember my dad saying to me, we need more people like us in politics. So you go for it, we've got your back. The way we shift the dial on independence is give people a little bit of hope. And I believe that the SNP can absolutely do that. Our challenge over the last few months, to be frank and to be blunt, has been that we've not been able to get cut through because of other events that have dominated the party space. We have too many people in Scotland, in fact right across the UK, living in poverty because we have had 13 years of austerity. And my belief, unsurprisingly, is that we need the powers of independence to truly unleash the potential of this country for every single Scot that lives here.
With an abundance of so much human talent, with so much wealth, with so much resource, don't dare tell me that we are too wee or too poor to be an independent nation.
We don't believe in Scotland as isolating ourselves off from the rest of the world. Quite the opposite. We believe in Scotland as being an outward-looking nation and being able to show global leadership. We may well be a small to medium-sized country, but actually we think we can really punch above our weight in issues that matter to the world, and the climate emergency is top of that list.
Let's do our bit in tackling the climate crisis here in Scotland and across the world.
We are bursting with potential when it comes to renewables. So for me, the future of this country can be like many other European nations of our size who are wealthier, more productive, have fewer people in poverty than the UK. The big question is, well, why not Scotland? I remember my father saying to me that if you're passionate about something, if you really believe it in your heart, then doors will open for you. But always keep your intention clear. That was the best bit of advice that I ever received, and I keep it to this day.
In January, Aniele Franco took on one of Brazil's most urgent tasks. Brazil has long struggled to address deep-rooted racial inequalities, but under far-right President Jair Bolsonaro, things went from bad to worse. Brazil's black majority and indigenous minority saw a surge in police violence, the removal of legal protections for land, and rising rates of hunger. Now, as Minister for Racial Equality under President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, commonly known as Lula, Franco wants to not only reverse that backsliding, but push further ahead.
Sim, a gente tem muita coisa, sabe, que a gente precisa priorizar, e eu tenho batido nessa tecla alguns pontos primordiais. Então, por exemplo, a população negra ela é 70% de 33 milhões de pessoas que hoje passam fome no Brasil. Então, um dos primeiros pontos é a gente tentar fazer com que essas pessoas tenham comida nos seus pratos e nas suas casas. Esse é um ponto que é primordial. E aí, paralelo à questão da fome, a gente tem o combate, o enfrentamento do genocídio da população preta. A gente é o país que mata a cada 23 minutos um jovem negro, né, nesse país. Então, falar sobre isso, que isso é uma questão de segurança pública, vai ser muito importante. Tivemos também uma reunião com a ministra Anísia Trindade, né, da ministra da Saúde, para debatermos a saúde da população negra. Tivemos também uma reunião já com o ministro Camilo. E aí eu estou falando tudo isso porque, dentre todas as pautas, esses 4 pontos são os principais que nós já fizemos, que nós já começamos. Então, saúde, educação, segurança pública e a questão da fome, né?
For Franco, this cause is deeply personal. Her sister, Marielle Franco, a Rio de Janeiro city councillor, was murdered in 2018. Activists say the assassination was linked to Marielle's activism around police brutality, racism, and corruption.
Eu nunca tinha pensado em ser política antes da morte da minha irmã. Diferente dela, assim, a Mari sempre teve isso muito enraizado nela, por vários motivos e vários fatores, assim, que a levavam até esse lugar. Ela era muito família, ela era muito alegre, ela era muito vaidosa, ela era muito justa com o que ela acreditava. Ela falava, vamos, se não for, depois eu vejo o que eu faço. Ela tinha mais esse jeitão, assim, do vou fazer e vida que segue. Eu perdi um pouco o medo do erro e do acerto depois que mataram a minha irmã, assim, porque eu fiquei muito mais reativa agora, sabe? Eu dificilmente eu me calo diante de alguma situação que eu não goste ou que eu não me sinta segura, por exemplo. Eu mudei um pouco depois que a gente perdeu ela e fiquei, para além de reativa, fiquei mais empoderada, eu diria assim. Todos os dias aqui a gente precisa comprovar que a gente tem capacidade de estar aqui, né? Não só por ser mulher, mas por ser negra, da favela, mas também, principalmente, por ser irmã da Mari. Nossa, eu queria muita coisa, mas se eu puder nomear tudo que eu quero um país mais humano, menos dividido, sem racismo, onde as pessoas se respeitem de fato, mesmo pensando diferente, onde as pessoas possam se encontrar e não termos nenhum ato como nós tivemos no último dia 8 de janeiro. Se eu acredito numa coisa, você acredita em outra coisa, que a gente possa sentar e dialogar. Eu espero que o país saia desse mapa da fome, eu espero que a gente consiga ter um meio ambiente, né, um clima melhor, com políticas públicas voltadas para essa área. Eu espero que as pessoas negras estejam em lugares de protagonismo e não representadas na capa do jornal, de revista, como o genocídio que tem sido tão frequente no país. Eu espero que a gente esteja mais feliz, que a gente volte a ser o país do samba, da Copa, do futebol, de tantas outras coisas, e não tanto um país que tem sido ali rechaçado e negado por posicionamentos de seus políticos, né? Então eu espero que esse governo construa tudo isso e um pouco mais.